In this module, we will be learning virtual networking. And as per the Microsoft's flow for AZ104, this is the fourth module. As a continuation of this particular module, we will also learn load balancing and intersite connectivity. If you see the entire AZ104, the next three modules are the most important modules of all. In the exam, almost 40 to 50 percentage of the coverage is from this particular module. So it's really very important for us to understand the virtual networking. And before even getting into virtual networking, I will give you an overview for people who are not from networking background. Here we will start with learning virtual networks and how can we segregate virtual networks into multiple subnets. If you take Azure, there are n number of networking components starting from the NIC card of the virtual machine and then how we segregate the network into multiple VNets and subnets and how can I balance my load and the multiple gateways of both application and virtual network gateway. We also have local network gateway and many other networking components are there. But before even we go there, it's really very important to understand how networking works. What is networking? How IP addressing works? What is CIDR notation? So we are going to use the whiteboard to explain some of the basics. Like how we have multiple mobile numbers to contact each other, networking has something called IP address, and we have IP version 4 and IP version 6. IP version 4 is usually an 8-bit, 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 8-bit. So this is an 8-bit, 888. So overall, it's a 32-bit IP addressing, wherein in IPv6, it's 128-bit alphanumeric code. It's very long. Currently, telecom industry is leveraging IPv6 heavily. If you take IPv4, I can do subnetting and supernetting to classify into multiple small pieces of network. And we have 5 different classes of IP address from A to E. A is 0 to 126 and B is 128 to 191 and 192 to 223, 224 to 239, 240 to 255. Overall from 0 to 255. So it's 256 overall. Do we have anything which is missing? Yes, we have 127 which is missing, which is also called a loopback IP address. It is also called home. If I want to check the internet connection of my laptop and if I really want to start with my own network card, then I can ping 127.0.0.1. And if I get a ping reply, which means that it doesn't have any issues with my laptop, especially with my network card. Let me try it in my laptop. I don't have any issues with the internet, so it should ping. I'm getting the ping for my loopback IP address. Let's say I'm taking one particular bit. It starts from 0 to 255 and the second bit also goes from 0 to 255. So the IP addressing starts from 00002, 255, 255, 255, 255. So we have millions of IP address and how are we going to classify which one to use and which one to reserve? For this, we need to understand CIDR notation, classless inter-domain routing. If I pick up one IP address like this /16, which means 8 plus 8, I am blocking the first 16 bits for network and the remaining 0 to 255 and 0 to 255 are for my host. If I need a big network, then I need to choose maximum bits from here. And if I need a small network but more host, which means I do have only limited departments, but the employees within the department is more. So your department is nothing but your network. The employees are nothing but the host IP. So if I write in 10.1.10/24, which means I'm blocking the first 3 octet. So all I get is 256 IP address, which is 0 to 255 of the last bit. If I have multiple departments but only very less employees in the department, then I can go for it. We also have two broad classification of IPv4, that is your public and your private IP. Public is mainly for management traffic. If you have a virtual machine, quickly go to the overview page and check you have two IP address. One is public, another one is private. So public, we have just given the name, for example, VM-PIP or so and so. But Microsoft gets the list of public IPs from IANA, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. That is why even if we have shut down our server, we still have to pay for operating system disk and resources like public IP because Microsoft has paid it to IANA. We also have to pay few cents to Microsoft. Every public IP, or I would say most of the public IPs, are associated with an website. But it's not the case with private. We do have limited range of private IPs. Let me write it here. These are the three range of private IPs, the 10 series and the sum of the IP address in the 172.16 series and also the complete 192.168 series. Why is it called private? Because the data traffic happens via private IP address while public IP address is mainly for management. Do you remember we used to take remote session to our virtual machine via the public IP, not via the private IP? If two virtual machines communicate with each other, then it is always via private IP. I can have the same IP address and subnetting in my subscription, and you can also use the same thing. For example, I have picked up 10.1.0.0 as one of my IP address. Well, you can use it under your subscription because it's private. This IP address is completely private for my subscription. Within my subscription, I cannot use it again, but from your subscription, you can use it. Now, let's see, we will quickly create a new boundary. So far, we have always created only the logical boundary, which is my resource group. Let's say this is the resource group which is called network, and in between the network we have directly created a virtual machine, and under the third page of creating virtual machine we have kept everything as default option. But today we are not going to do the same thing. We are going to create a network boundary also. This is our logical boundary, and within that we are also going to create our network boundary, and then we will place the virtual machine or any other products that you need. So this is the network boundary. It is called VNet. And what could be my IP addressing range? You cannot give single IP address. You need to give the IP address range. I'm going to choose 10.1.0.0/16, which means I'm blocking the first two for network and the remaining two for host. Now, within this VNet, if you see the overall IP address that I get in this range, it's vast. It is 65,536. Now that becomes tough for me to manage and also apply security rules. And there is one thumb rule. Everybody within the VNet can talk to each other. It is one network boundary. Let's say I have a virtual machine, I have a SQL database, I also have a Cosmos DB. All of these resources can talk to each other within my network. In that case, if I place all my machines within the network, how will I apply security rules? Now for this, I am allowed to again segregate my network into multiple small pieces, which is nothing but my subnet. I'm going to name it as S1 and S2. And my S1 can be 10.1 because I cannot change the first two octets. It is reserved already on the VNet level. This is my VNet. It's already fixed. So what is the next one available? The third octet. Now here I can start from 0 or 1. Here I'm starting from 1. 24. Why? Because the third one, I'm reserving the third one, which is the 1 series. And S2 can be 10, 1, 20/24. Similarly, I can create n number of subnets. So within this, if you see, I get only 256 IP address. Now, this is how we segregate our networks. The first one is the logical boundary, and the second one is our network boundary. And also for the security boundary, we have the the subnet. In Azure, there is an exception. You cannot use the IP address 0, 1, 2, 3, and 255. If you have created your virtual machine, probably you might have paid attention or may not. But if you have a virtual machine, quickly go and check. If you have chosen the IP address, your first available IP address will be always 4 because 0 is the network ID and these three are reserved for Azure for future purpose, mainly for gateways. And 255 is the broadcast ID. Now keep in mind that you cannot use 1, 2, and 3. And private IP is by default assigned by Azure. All we have to do is give the network boundary with the IP range and the rest. And IP addressing assignment is usually taken care by Azure. Now with this, can we quickly go ahead and create our network along with the subnet? Once again, I'm going to write the same thing. This is the VNet wherein 10.1.0.0/16. Well, you can also try. I'm going to create with one subnet, which is 10.1.1.0/24. Without a subnet, you cannot create VNet. But once the entire network boundary is chosen, then you can add n number of subnets. The second subnet is going to be 10.1.2.0/24. You might ask, is there any limitation for the VNet in the subscription level? Yes, there is called soft limit and there is also called hard limit. Soft limit is 50 VNets per subscription and hard limit is 500. Why is there a difference? So that Microsoft can keep a track of the usage. Once your soft limit is over, call Microsoft and there is no charge for it. They will move from 50 to 500. They will enable the hard limit for you. You can use the same numbering also. Now let's go back to the portal and try the same thing. I already have a resource group called networking. You can type in virtual network on top or you can also choose from the left hand side. I'll add a virtual network. I'll use the same resource group and I'm going to name it as VNet1. I'll create it in West US. The next is IP address and by default Azure gives the IP address. You are free to change it. Here we are going to use the 10.1 series and the subnet. Without one subnet, we cannot add the VNet. And the subnet is 10.1, which is already fixed for VNet 10/24. On the VNet level, we have two different level of security, DDoS and firewall, which we have already covered in AZ900. But once the VNet creation is done, we will go back to the whiteboard and once again understand what is DDoS and what is firewall. I'm not going to choose the tag. Let me go ahead and create our first network boundary. While the creation is going on, we will try to understand the security part of it. So here is our VNet. You might ask, why do I have to talk about security? It's cloud. It's supposed to be a silver bullet, isn't it? It's not. Security is a shared responsibility. Any cloud vendor you go to, the cloud vendor will take care of certain things and you have to take care of certain things. For example, the data that you put in cloud, it's always a customer's responsibility to give the identity and access management to the right set of people. Similarly, on the VNet level, I'm going to call it as perimeter security. And I have two levels of security here, which is my DDoS, which is the distributed denial of service. By default, DDoS basic is enabled. You can also upgrade it to the standard one. And you also have firewall, Azure firewall, which is nothing but a firewall as a service. Please go to Azure pricing calculator, choose Azure firewall as the product and choose your target region and check how much is the pricing for firewall. Azure firewall is one of the very few expensive resources within Azure. Have you ever wondered why you are able to access everything in your office but not Facebook? Or I'm not able to access anything but only BBC and CNN? It's all because firewall. It's nothing but your access control list wherein you can allow and deny some of the IP addresses or the website. It can be 1111 or it can also be wildcard entry. The star is called wildcard entry dot facebook.com, which means photos.facebook.com, videos.facebook.com, sales.facebook.com, anything.facebook.com. Since VNet is always on the IP address level, firewall has to be on the VNet. These are the two different levels of security that we have on the VNet level. Now let's go back to our portal. Our VNet is ready. If you click on the subnet, we have our first subnet. Can we create one more subnet? So I'm going to call it as S2 and call it as 10 to 24 series. We'll keep all the other options as basic because we haven't learned about network security group, routing table, and service endpoint.